So what's up with Dead Space? Well, EA thought it was a good idea to fuck around and remake one of their most highly rated games to win back some of their fans. And you know what? It worked. The original Dead Space came out in 2008, and it's one of my favorite games of all time. It's a game heavily inspired by Resident Evil 4, which I've made a video on, and was created by Visceral Games. Rest in peace. Also created by Glenn Schofield, who now helms at Striking Distance, making his own Dead Space-like games in Callisto Protocol. EA tasks their studio Motive with taking the classic game and reimagining it for modern consoles, cut some of the fat and enhance the better aspects of the game. Alright, let's get into it. Dead Space begins with the crew of the USG Kellion being tasked with investigating a distress call coming from sister ship USG Ishimura. The crew of the Kellion consists of Captain Zach Hammond, Kendra Daniels, some filler characters, and then yourself, Isaac Clarke. Isaac's girlfriend Nicole Brennan is stationed on the Ishimura in the medical crew, which makes this mission personal to him. Upon boarding the Ishimura, which is a mission by itself, it becomes clear that something has gone horribly wrong.
You see anyone in flight control?
No, nobody.
They can't find anyone, at least anyone that's still human. Ishimura is a planet cracker, meaning that it takes on large chunks of planets and then breaks them down for their NFTs and rare minerals. And also they took on board something called the Marker, which is the cause for the Ishimura going to shit. It turns everyone into these monsters called necromorphs. You fight them off while repairing some of the systems, searching for the truth, and making sure the Marker doesn't get back to Earth. The thing I believe that makes Dead Space such a great game is, at its core, its simplicity. One of the first things that you are shown on the Ishimura is, not so subtly, cut off their limbs, written in large red letters to get the point across. This is what you'll be doing for the entire game, in a good way. You get Isaac's iconic plasma cutter right at the start, and then proceed to play a really fucked up version of Fruit Ninja. The sure way to make sure that the necromorphs stay down is by using a plasma cutter, or any weapon, to slice anything on them that looks long and skinny. Anything. Jokes aside, doing this is quite satisfying, because when you see one, you know exactly what you need to do to take it down, since this applies to every enemy in the game. There's something very arcadey about it. I mentioned the plasma cutter, which is the first gun that Isaac gets, and definitely the one that you should keep stocked and on you at all times. All of the weapons have an alt fire, which means you press the right bumper and it will have a little gimmick that changes the way that it's used. For the plasma cutter, it flips the axis of your shots. But for most other weapons, it's an alt fire in the more traditional sense. The pulse rifle has a grenade launcher, and the Ripper lets you shoot blades that can ricochet off of walls, etc. Some alt fires are more useful than others, and this is the biggest factor to help you decide what guns are worthy of your trip through the Ishimura. I'll come back to some other game mechanics a bit later, but I want to talk about the horror aspects right now. With this fresh coat of paint, the game really allows you to fully immerse yourself in the world. It'll scare you out of your socks as you marvel at the pretty graphics. Kinda like Resident Evil 2 Remake, this game makes things much darker. Honestly, it's effective. One mechanic has you rerouting power from some aspects of the ship to another. Let's say you need to take an elevator, but in order to power it up, you need to power down the lights, putting you in a mad dash to your goal. You may be thinking, well, don't I have a flashlight? And you do, but it's only when you're aiming down sights. So ADSing lights your way and has you ready for anything that wants to come and ruin your day, but it also hinders your movement, so you're forced to just walk, which in turn will give the necromorphs more time to come and ruin your day. It's a smart trade-off gameplay-wise. The sound design is amazing. I played a chunk of the game with headphones, and it really lets you appreciate the heaviness of Isaac's footsteps among other things, like his heart pumping. This isn't new, but you can always hear it softly in the back. It's so soft at times that it's not distracting. After running for a little while, or getting a little scare, you can hear Isaac's heartbeat get a little bit louder and begin to race. The necromorphs also have some of their sounds seemingly ripped from the original game. At times, they sound identical. They still scream and screech as you attempt to dismember them, but the score doesn't beat you over the head like it did in the original game. I haven't talked about stasis or kinesis. Kinesis is telekinesis, moving around objects, explosives, or sharp items to use as a projectile. Kinesis is free to use. Stasis is drastically slowing down enemies or moving objects. Stasis has limited charges so you can't spam it, and the meter can be found on the right side of Isaac's back. Both of these are used in light puzzle solving but can also allow you to mix up combat situations if you want. Just like the stasis meter on Isaac's back, Dead Space was the first game to really eliminate the HUD in a traditional sense. which basically means that there is no visual element that is constantly on your screen. Isaac's health is on his spine, and this module can expand when you upgrade your max HP. I mentioned the stasis already, but Kinesis is free to use. There's a little sign that shows you when you are able to use it, in the sign of a little magnet. It's also next to your weapon. Something I really appreciated in this remake is the changes that they made. They changed just enough for you to not know what may be around the corner, but choosing to keep some of the original's major story moments. There's quite a bit of backtracking. In the original game, you move throughout the ship using the tram system, so when you reach a new station, you know you've completed the level. But now, the tram system is a method of fast travel and you'll be returning to certain areas multiple times. You can also just choose wherever you want to go, if you have that tram station unlocked. There is now clearance levels on some doors and loot boxes, meaning that you'll be passing doors you don't have access to and then returning to these areas at a later time when you raise your clearance level.
Clearance confirmed.
Probably the most obvious change is that Isaac is now a character. In the 08 game, he never spoke and you never really get a good look at his face either. They've since remodeled the guy and he now speaks pretty often. I've noticed him taking some of the lines that in the original, someone else said.
Never heard of a total communications blackout on one of these things. You'd think with 1,000 people on board, someone would pick up the phone.
You ever hear of a full communications blackout on one of these things?
Never. Come on. Someone pick up the damn phone.
The performances overall are great. Just like before, Hammond and Daniels have a constant back and forth.
What's the plan?
You and Johnston fix up the Kellyan. We report to the bridge. Standard emergency protocol.
What? Protocol? Hammond, people are dying here.
And I'm not losing anyone else. We stick to procedure. We'll get through this.
With Isaac keeping his mind on the task ahead, not picking any sides. A quick note on some of the negatives. They're all nitpicky because I really enjoyed this game. There's no quick turn, which is a must-have in survival horror games, and it's absent. It's crucial here, especially since enemies drop in from behind you all of the time, so you aren't able to clean up one enemy, pop behind you, and then murk some other fool. I don't have footage for this, but if your inventory is full and there's an item near a door, you're temporarily stuck. This happened to me on my first playthrough. I had to do some item juggling to get the crap away from the door so I could leave. I'm actually surprised that this made it in the final game. Not really a negative, but Isaac sounds like he's choking when you're getting low on oxygen. You hear him gasping for breath like he's drowning. It's kind of distracting, especially when you're totally aware of the oxygen level and you're just trying to focus on the objective. Alright, did you play Dead Space? Well, it's the perfect game. If you want to see this dude stuck in the A pose. If you know who Ka is. If you think the first game looked this good. And if you don't mind being scarred by this scene. Alright, what's up everyone? This game was great. It was really well made and made me realize how good modern games are becoming. With the prices increasing by $10, the games better be good to justify it. And this is definitely worth it if you haven't played the original. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. Stay safe.